And we're live.
Ever since I can remember, I've been popping my collar.
I think you got one button too low.
No, because then I'm choking. And then these two are buttoned as it is. So it's all right.
What? Can you unbutton the collar button?
Of course, but I'm trying to show some cleavage, so I'll just go leave it as it is.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. You fucking skank.
I'm from fucking Jersey, son. That's how we do it in Newark. What do
you think I'm from Baltimore, yo? You're fucking stupid, yo.
And crab cakes and shit.
Fuck that shit, yo.
All right, I got some sinning to do. Let's get this on the road.
You got what to do?
Some sinning.
Okay, there we go.
I'm gonna start this one. Welcome back to the first and only. Well, no, go ahead.
First and only what?
First and only time where we do an extra episode for you motherfuckers about to get kicked the fuck out. I ain't got no money either, but I'm gonna be pointing at you.
So, welcome back to Revolutionary Roulette. I'm Rob Zielinski. You can find me on Twitter at Rob Zielinski, Zielinski. You can find the show on Instagram at Revolutionary Roulette, or you could email the show at revolutionaryroulette@gmail.com. And I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Joshua Catlow.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You can find me on Facebook at Joshua Patrick, Instagram at Joshua Patrick, and you can find me on Twitter arguing with White Sox and Cubs fans that it is no longer baseball season as soon as the Chicago Bears take the playing field in training camp, and that the Crosstown Classic is not only played out, but the argument between Cubs and Sox fans is so the R word that I can't say anymore.
You're going to play the R card on us already?
It is so bad. So bad.
Good thing I named this like Off the Rails episode.
You know what? There's only one thing gained when you argue with somebody on the internet. You both just find out you're the R word. And that's what everybody sounds like when they're talking about who's better, Cubs or Sox. You both won one championship in 150,000 years. You both shit. And
I agree that the Cubs Sox rivalry is kind of dumb now, especially since interleague play has become a normal thing. The novelty has worn off. So yeah, not.
And I could settle it quickly. Wrigley Field is more aesthetically pleasing. It is a much more beautiful ballpark than the G-Spot. However, the G-Spot has better food, more fan-friendly. You could take a piss with sandals on and not get splashed by somebody when you haven't even started going yourself. And well, it's just a better place to take a family than Wrigley Field because you can do it without taking out a second mortgage. So cheers to the G-Spot. I grew up a Cub fan, and I root for both teams, but the cell is where it's at, man, when it comes to family time and just enjoying a game. Like, you can't see the field from Wrigley. And we didn't come on here to talk baseball. We'll get into the seriousness. This is the tangents you fucks bring me on when I hear the arguments about Cubs and Sox baseball. You guys are both fucking awful.
You were, first of all,
I apologize. The White Sox are really, really good at baseball.
Really good.
Cubs are awful, but the arguments across the board, no matter the records, are awful. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. Also, baseball season ends when the last out is made in October. So shut your mouth, be quiet, and enjoy baseball and football. All right.
Who gives a fuck? You fucks.
I don't understand how you can be so into football in fucking July and August.
Because it's football. That's all I got. I don't have parents. I don't have friends. I don't have people to give a fuck about me. Ain't nobody praying for me.
You know
I
what?
just got football. That's it. I got Justin Fields' career potentially changing my life for the better for the next decade, or at least one day a week giving me a smile. And then I'm going to have the shitty job that I go to for the next 30 years of my life trying to make a living so that I could be broke in retirement.
Know what football and your parents have in common?
They both let me down. Often?
Yeah, neither one loves you back.
Yeah, I know, man. Well, football loves me back. I mean,
I don't think so.
And the equivalent of what I was just whining about, Cubs and Sox wise, is when you fucking assholes start talking about 1985. Who gives a flying fuck about 1985? That team was so fucking good. They should have had 3 championships, only managed 1. Buddy Ryan was the person that should have coached the team, and you send him to Philly the very next. You stupid fucks. Let's talk about saving some people, getting some apartments, and getting some money across the board with some GoFundMe accounts.
Okay.
Stupid Chicago sport.
So
this is why I drink.
The the eviction moratorium was extended. The federal one was extended. Now, when you're talking about state to state, it's different. Don't ask me how or why. That part I didn't delve into.
Just to confuse people.
Right. But Pritzker of Illinois said that the eviction moratorium will expire at the end of August, I believe. August or September. Either way, it's going to expire. People are just like, well, it's got to expire at some time.
That is great.
It does, but it doesn't have to during a pandemic. So the eviction moratorium was a statute set to expire originally back in September of 2020. The Trump administration kind of loopholed a way to extend it simply through CDC recommendations. And it was extended a couple more times with that administration until January 31st, about 10 days after Biden was inaugurated. And then it was his issue to contend with.
But he forgot about it because he's 90.
Because so where's my ice cream? It's ice cream day. And so Ice Cream Joe could have improved the eviction moratorium because it was a pretty crappy statute to begin with, because it specifically had to do with non-payment of rent. So landlords could still evict tenants for any other reason. And there are creative monster landlords that will find a reason for you to get evicted, right? So
if you're not coming up with your money every week, they're going to be like, this guy used way too much water, huh? He's got to go, huh?
Yeah, like seriously, it could be something like that where they left the hose on and ran up the water bill, or they could lie and say like they were they had a pet when there was no pet in the rental agreement, so he's got to go. Now, I would hope that judges wouldn't evict them for that, but as we know, judges tend to side with the capitalists, so usually it's not it's not good for the people, not good for tenants. So
you'll get evicted, and then he will be playing golf within 3 hours. Sorry to interrupt.
That's right. So yeah, people getting evicted, even with the federal eviction moratorium on. And this is the most important part during a damn pandemic. I hear people say global pandemic, but that seems redundant. Does it, like, wouldn't it have to be global for it to be a pandemic? Otherwise it would be an epidemic. I don't know.
Well, it didn't start out as an epidemic. It started out as a pandemic, and it only started out.
No, I think it's the other way around. Strike that, reverse it, like Willy Wonka. I think it starts out as an epidemic, and then it grows into a pandemic.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway, so Biden got it extended from June to the end of July, and that's why I was kind of getting a little iffy, because things could get really bad really fast if it wasn't extended. So that's what I was saying. Like, I will amplify people who are getting evicted or going to be evicted, and let's try to amplify their GoFundMe or what have you, whatever website you want to use for help. I didn't get any takers, so I don't have any to name today. But if you're listening to this, or again, if you are a friend or a friend of a friend, I don't care. I don't care if it's your cousin's fourth cousin removed from your sister's brother's dog's boyfriend. Just let us know, and we will say what the link is, because as we know, electoral politics aren't helping anybody. So we need to do this whole mutual aid and just help each other out, because nobody from the top is going to help us. They're a completely different class. This is why we've been preaching class solidarity. There's a class war against us, and most of us don't even know it.
Rob and I started this podcast. Rob started this podcast and brought me along with the intention of helping people understand things that they normally wouldn't understand, to try and enlighten people and bridge the gap between ignorance and whether it be willful ignorance or just plain not knowing, and those who want to learn. So essentially, Rob has come again. I don't want to say to the rescue, because we're not first responders or anything, but what we're trying to do is keep people indoors with locks on doors, not trying to scramble for things. And this is all Rob's idea. So if you have a GoFundMe that you would like us to take care of or say over the air, revolutionaryroulette@gmail.com, or hit us up in our DMs, as we previously mentioned. We knew that getting listeners for history might be a challenging thing, but we wanted to leave a positive mark on the world that we live in and try and leave it a little bit better than what we found it. And because of Rob being so passionate about this project, I think not only he, but he's dragging me along for the ride to help people find, whether it's knowledge or service or servitude in these particular situations. So, and this is something that we could both show back to our kids one day and say proudly that, look, we tried to help. So that's why we're doing this. No judgment. Everybody's been strapped for cash. So if you want us to shout that out and try and help you make some money, or if you want to make something up where it doesn't identify you personally, just figure something out and get in touch with us. But Rob, I'll give you back the floor. I just wanted to A, show some gratitude towards you, and B, show the people that our hearts are in the right place on this one, and there's nothing to be ashamed of for you, because I'm sure your hearts are in the right place as well. And one of the hardest things in the world to do is ask for help. Believe me, I got two things sitting next to me that I should be asking for help for, and I haven't, but that's neither here nor there. So just reach out. We'd be glad to do what we can do. Rob, back to you.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and yeah, very well said. If we can, like I usually say, if we can reach one person and help them, if we can, even if we can't directly help one person, if we can just sort of leave a breadcrumb for somebody else to pick up later on in this sort of timeline of space time, if somebody picks up that breadcrumb and it helps them along this sort of mutual aid path, then we're better people for it too.
Ultimately, knowledge is power. So that's what we're trying to do.
So again, Biden got the eviction moratorium extended from June to the end of July, and saying that it would be the last extension, made it very clear because a lot of people were getting vaccinated by then. Pfizer, Moderna, they were double vaxxed. Triple J, they got the one shot. They were ready to go. So it looked like there was light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. A lot of light. Of course, leading up to the expiration, landlords were suing, saying that the moratorium was unconstitutional. And the case went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, where in a 5-4 ruling, including Brett Beerbong Kavanaugh, said it was good to go for now. That the ruling was non-binding, and if another case comes before him, he's going to be voting the other way. Enter the Delta variant. So United States went from 12,000 cases a day. Now there's about 80,000 cases a day in the U.S. So that could be good for the CDC to, again, kind of take over and make another extension, not have to wait on, because there was this pushing and pulling where CDC, Congress, namely Nancy Pelosi and Biden, they were all the fucking Spider-Man meme and just pointing at each other, and just blaming each other instead of just somebody getting it done. So Biden finally extended it, and hopefully when it comes time to extend it again, the federal moratorium will be extended by the CDC, just looking at the pure numbers. Unfortunately, it's not a good thing that the numbers are going up, but it will help to extend the moratorium.
That said, don't expect it to be extended long if it does get extended. You're looking at probably a 3-month extension tops. Granted, I don't sit in the fancy chairs of on the floor of Congress. I was unable to leap that fence on January 6th. But what I do know is that if they're going to give us any more help as a country, it's not going to be a very long leash. So start figuring out backup plans A, B, C, whatever you need to do to protect yourself, protect your family.
That's right. And again, we're here to try to help. So, and part of the crappy part of this is that this isn't even necessarily a eviction moratorium issue. It's more of a rental assistance problem, because looking at the numbers, there's about 21 billion in rental debt across the country.
That's right? It.
So 21 billion. Congress appropriated over 46 billion in rental assistance. However, only about 3 billion of it has been doled out and actually reached the people in need. And
the rest went to Bezos.
So, and this is mostly right. Yeah, I mean, it's like, have Bezos trucks and drones just drop off straight cash, homie. Like, get it to the people.
He made $15 billion in one day during the pandemic. But yeah, no, he's paying the right amount in taxes.
Yeah, no, paying the right amount to go hang out in space. And we actually, it's like, don't get me started. We already we gave him like 10 billion worth of money for help to get up there. Why? I don't know. American exceptionalism, I guess. I don't know. Just to say, like, the Virgin dude and Bezos got up there, and Elon, Mr. Lithium, is on his way up there too. So again, it's not so much a eviction issue as it is a rental assistance problem. So it's mostly a crappy bureaucratic system with tons of red tape, Everybody's disorganized. And if only 3 billion was doled out, it would take a full payout until 2028. That's not going to work. We're talking 7 years away. So the issue was it all started from the very beginning because it was designated to states and cities to figure it out, which means all these new organizations had to be created. All kinds of new paperwork had to be created. That shit takes time and money. Another issue, and it's right in the statute, landlords can veto the money that is given to them by the renters. So if it comes from the local agency, so they could just be like, look, rent is soaring, you're gone, and I'll get someone else who can pay. And, I'll just, especially if it's a big corporate landlord and not like a single person, they'll just eat that money and then get somebody in there to pay the higher rent costs. So,
There's going to be a lot of ass whoopings delved out within the next 2-3 months between tenants and landlords. Like, I wish Live PD didn't get canceled, but I understand why they did it because, well, you can't have people murdered on television. So, but the fact that they can turn away money is astonishing. I get it. Landlords are trying to make their profits too, but in particular situations, people need to step up. And by people, I mean our government agencies, in which, let's just put it this way. We're so used to being fucked by the government agency. They should at least take us out to dinner beforehand. And what I mean by that is when it comes to a pandemic and a situation as such, they should be more than willing to, I don't want to say take care of everybody's rent because that's just not feasible. But what they should do is, what did they send? Like $2,200 total for people in the last 20 months?
Yeah.
To take care of things?
Yeah.
Who the fuck $2,200?
That's nothing.
You know what happens if you if you're 10 months late on your rent and you hand a landlord $2,200? He's laughing at you.
Yeah.
He's like, go take that money, buy some boxes, and get the fuck out.
Yeah, no, seriously. And moving trucks aren't cheap either, so
I'm leaving all my shit here to make it more inconvenient on the next person.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just walking down the street with my microphone. Like, what?
So, but I want to go back to something that you said. I mean, you said that they can't just pay everybody's rent. In a way, they can. Congress appropriated all this money. It's it is more than double, what they appropriated than, what people owe on back rent. And that's all money. That's all money that was allocated, and they got the funds before they even taxed all these major corporations that haven't been taxed in years, like Amazon and everybody else that we've mentioned before. So the money is there, and even more money could be there if they actually tax people. And that's part of the issue going on. Like, not saying the government should, have a mansion for everybody, but everybody should have housing. Housing is a right, should be a right in the United States, in, the most richest country in the history of the world. Housing should be a right. And there are enough buildings, spaces, apartments now. There are more than homeless in the US now. They spend more money trying to keep homeless off the streets and ripping up their tents and ripping up their little communities, cities that they put together under viaducts, when they could just put them in these places and help them get them back on their feet, and then they become valuable members of society again. I mean, so many people are just, again, one medical issue away from being houseless. They're just one, car accident away. So it's just like the money is there. It's never been about money. It's just about, I mean, it's not about having the money. It is about money. It's not about having it. It's about not giving it to people who are in need. It's our money. It's our tax money, and they're using it for, they upped the defense fund again. Like our national defense fund is 10 times more than like the next 10 or 20 countries, whatever it is. It's way too fucking much. It's ridiculous how much money we go there that could be reallocated to people just for, housing and for them to be, not food insecure.
And we're not even talking about permanently. We're talking about until we get this virus eradicated. So you could go ahead and start spending erratically back on your defense budget, because I know you're just itching to start another war sometime soon, because weapons contracts and things are probably expiring and shit like that. But I mean, to keep it real, the problem, like you said, isn't the money. It's spending it on the people instead of putting it in their pockets. That's where the big issue is. And the Democrats try to act holier than thou when it comes to how Republicans are the most greedy creation of all of man. But in all actuality, they're holding pockets and doing a little dance of Ring Around the Rosie, which just so happened to be brought up during the plague, which is very similar to things that are going on now. I mean, obviously, the Delta variant isn't flesh eating and things like that, but you get the reference. You get where I'm trying to go with it. Yeah. They don't want to spend the money on the people. They would rather spend the money on something that would make them more money.
Right. That's the part that doesn't even make sense. Like, if you help these people and then they get more money and earn more money, then once they, pick themselves up, they start spending more money. And
it's basic economics, supply and demand. As soon as we get better as a country, the sooner the country is going to get back out and start making our politicians better with the money that we're bringing back. And I get it. You see a now hiring sign everywhere across because the Biden bucks are still being issued and nobody wants to work when they're making more money to sit on their ass and stay at home. But that isn't going to get extended. Sooner or later, all these jobs are going to end up getting vacuumed up because
people are also realizing that those low wages, it's not worth it to work. That they actually are called like slave wages.
I understand it completely because I make $17.40 an hour and I could barely support myself. So what you're telling me isn't a newsflash. They are slave wages. And it's something that's unfortunate. However, once again, the idea of being able to sit at home and not wanting to work for slave wages is going to eventually run out, just like the patience of the institutions that are trying to provide help. So
right, but that's part of the conflict that we've discussed before, where
absolutely
the conflict reaches such a high point that eventually like something has to give. So now is that, does that mean people are just going to take it and just go back to work for those slave wages? I don't know if they will. The other option is what we've been discussing, a general strike.
It's never going to happen.
The general strike?
Never happen. I have nothing to lose. I don't have kids. My life sucks. I'll be the first motherfucker on the line. General strike, general strike. Let's do this. But there's people out there that have to work. You know what I mean?
Well, that's another part of the issue, right? Is like, especially people now. Let's go, towards my end of the spectrum where I'm a little bit more comfortable. Not much. Again, I'm one accident away from being ruined. But
kids and family.
I have a family, and so I'm going to protect that, like no matter what. And I would say I'm middle class, petty bourgeois, whatever, societal class you would put me in, right? But people like me are willing to give up some of the comforts that I and my family do have to help people who are in your position and worse, right? So people have to. This is part of the class consciousness that we're working on. So everybody has the war is against all of us, all the petty bourgeois, all the proletariat, the peasants, however you want to put it. Everybody that's on the lower rungs have to realize this and fight back and take back what is rightfully ours.
The problem with that is the C word in which you used is an even more absurd C word than cunt. And the C word in which you referred to is consciousness, which implies that people will actually have the ability to think with their own 2 feet and say, can I do this for the greater good of something? And
no, it doesn't necessarily have to be for greater good. It could be for selfish reasons too.
Whatever selfish reasons.
It could be like, dude, I've been getting fucked this whole time, and now I'm just realizing it through this fucking pandemic because it exposed everything, all the weaknesses in capitalism. Oh my God. So I could see if they're like, what do we do about this?
Well, do you expect people to have that type of consciousness, though, that type of awareness to realize that, hey, this is a necessity. This is something we have to do. If it happens, it's going to be out of pure laziness because people don't want to go back to work.
However it happens.
I don't give a fuck either because I'm with you.
That's that's the hope. So,
but I don't think that people are smart enough to help themselves. And I certainly do not believe in an American public that turns down the opinion of scientists after scientists after scientists to help themselves.
Man, so you are a cynical motherfucker tonight.
That's what happens when you have a couple Remy's in a pop.
Yeah, believe me,
I'm not cynical. I'm speaking real. I mean, it's
no, I know. I'm a realist too. So it's just like it's the hope, right? Because if we don't have at least the hope, if I don't, basically, I don't know if you've ever heard terms like this, but like I feel like I've been black-pilled, right? So like,
that's that Matrix shit.
Yeah, right. Basically, yeah. But it's like, no matter what we do, nothing is going to work because we're not going to have the sort of consciousness to change things, to have a general strike or a revolution. I'm not even talking about like physical fight, war revolution. I just mean like flooding the streets until we get whatever it is the fuck we want. I mean, we all have to get on the same page. We need, whatever, the minimum wage to get raised, and healthcare and housing for all, and food and clothing and water for everybody.
And you know who the problem with this solution or potential solution is? It's that lower middle class to middle class family that actually thought President Trump gave a fuck about them when he hated them just as much as he hated the blacks and the Asians and the Latinos. It's that group of people that actually was like, yeah, we support him too. We're all behind that president. And I get it. We're in the Biden days now. So President Trump's name shouldn't even be thrown out. But I'm using that group of numb fucks that have no sense of what the fuck's going on whatsoever and actually think that somebody was in their corner to begin with to think that, okay, now let's take actions into our own hands. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, but what I'm saying is that lower to lower middle class of person is going to be the most difficult because poor people have nothing to lose. The 1% aren't going to do it. So
right. No, I completely understand what you're saying. And I would probably take it a step further because there were so many people who went from Obama voters, vote for me, I'm going to make change and there's hope. And but no, it's like he didn't do shit either. He had a fucking super majority, and you know he took a policy from the Heritage Foundation, which is a Republican sort of think tank, and that's what Obamacare is. Our healthcare system is a Republican system that was implemented by Obama because he's a corporate Democrat. They're all the same. It's the Republicans and diet Republicans. So we don't have an actual left, any kind of power in the left, in the anywhere in the government, really. The step that I would take further are liberals who are comfortable. They're in that same class. That's what I was saying about like people like, close to myself in that sort of lower middle class. Again, not that I'm a liberal, I'm further to the left of that. But what that means is people on that same spectrum, they're in the same class, even though they vote red or blue, they're in that same class. But even Biden liberals, third wave liberals, aren't going to give up that comfort that I talked about. They would have to be uncomfortable for a while for something to actually happen. Hopefully enough people in these classes would recognize that, say like, hey, I'm willing to, strike and go out and be in the streets and fight for the rights of my fellow people, because I'm not a freaking billionaire. So, and that's part of the problem, right? Is like some people who are like in middle class, maybe not even necessarily in the middle class, even if they're poor, they think in capitalism, they will one day they at least have the chance to become at least a millionaire, right? Or a billionaire. Rihanna is our newest billionaire. And
that's all my money, by the way.
What's that?
That's all my cash, by the way.
And it seems like whatever business she had going on was using like child labor, and it's like of course that's how, if you use like cheap labor, that's how you become a fucking billionaire, right? It's always at the expense of the lower class. It's always at the expense of the exploited workers. And this is another PSA. You should not be buying any Lay's chips. You should not be buying PepsiCo is like the parent company. You shouldn't be buying any Pepsi. They're striking right now. And Lay's. Actually, I think they did settle for something, but after the way that they treated those people and like the little bit that they gave their workers back, definitely going to go out of my way to not purchase any like Lay's chips, Lay's products, PepsiCo products from here on out. And you could probably do that with every freaking corporation at this point. And the only thing you'd be able to consume is whatever fruits and vegetables you make in your backyard. But yeah, I digress on that. So just really quick to wrap up the eviction moratorium. So again, it's just a crappy system, and all of these tenants have to like navigate through this system, and nobody, not even the people who created it, are nobody are familiar enough with the system to navigate it, to be able to get the funds that they need to pay the back rent, even though the funds are there. Like it's again, not just like one click and that's it. Like there really ought to be a sort of and if you don't want to be a part of this, then you can opt out and you're going to be in trouble. But there ought to be a sort of federal bank account for you. So like that stimulus or any of this back rent money, this appropriated money just gets dumped into that account. You could transfer it to your checking or whatever it is. There shouldn't be all this red tape to get funds for you to be able to live your life. And like you were saying before, people shouldn't be embarrassed to ask for help. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. Like there was a freaking pandemic. They did the best that they could. Businesses shut down. It's a failure of the system. It's a failure. It's a capitalism failure, not their fault. It's not the people's fault. So,
it's not your fault.
Half the battle again is just fighting for the relief. And then we can't even get the funds into the people's hands, the people who are in need. We can't even get the funds in their hands once we actually get the funds. So
it's like the Cedric the Entertainer bit in Kings of Comedy. He's like, man, I ain't got it. I can put something on it though. That's in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? It's like, but he does have it. He just forgot his ATM pin or whatever the fuck. Like the funds are in there. I just I can't get it to you today. Like my bank is 3 miles away, and I can't walk. I broke my leg, and I can't get a ride. Like the funds are there. They're just sitting there. They just can't actually get it to the people in need. So again, tell your friends, tell your family, if you need amplification, we will do that. Just let us know what the GoFundMe is. What's the other website that people use besides GoFundMe?
It's that Jewish dating app. Shit. What's it? Oh, PayPal.
PayPal, I guess. Yeah, PayPal. Seriously, if it's your PayPal or personal Venmo, let us know and we will amplify it. If you are going to be evicted, the shit is expensive, to move, or if we could help with back pay. And that's the other thing, right? Is the back pay. The moratorium should include that everything that the payment stops, rent stops. They should have stopped it for landlords too, right? Like you don't have to pay the banks because there's just no
money coming in.
Like what are you talking? So people are already struggling to pay rent as it is, and now they have all this back pay built up, and you can't even get them the funds to have them pay. This doesn't make any sense.
When we go through the next pandemic in 12 years, we're gonna be set. We're gonna have this down pat.
Well,
by the way, OnlyFans. If you have to start an OnlyFans to pay your rent, we'll shout that out too. And
girl, I'm gonna be naked in front of this camera.
Probably subscribe, but we'll shout that out too because I've been thinking about it. Anybody want to go half on a baby? I'll holler at you.
Half on a baby. Oh, that was good.
Can we talk about some other things that's going on in the world? Or do you need to wrap this up?
I don't need to wrap it up, but the other thing that I wanted to mention was that today is the 76th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima.
And the Declaration of Independence.
So
it is. You laugh. It is. Something to do with the Declaration of Independence happened on this day and the bombing of Hiroshima. Swear to God.
Okay.
I heard it this morning on talk radio. I don't remember what it is though because I zone out in the truck.
Yeah, and NPR doesn't lie either, So
fuck off, nerd.
So we cannot forget about what happened the United States is still the only country to drop an atomic bomb on another country. And
that contained many of their own people.
There's, the decades-long debate as to whether or not it was necessary, because if America didn't do that, then they probably would have had a boots on the ground. We would have had to invade Japan, and that could have possibly cost millions more their lives, as opposed to the extra hundreds of thousands of lives, of Japanese lives that they took. And I'm on the side of not dropping an atomic bomb into cities. I'm going to go on that side. I'm going to choose not bombing civilians every time.
You're a stand-up guy.
Every time. I'm taking it every time.
Stand-up guy.
I just, we don't know. I mean, the war was already like all but won at that point, and America was already firebombing Tokyo and other major cities, and they just happened to bring out, what is it, Fat Boy or whatever it was, and just dropped a bomb. So just don't forget and continue to. I know it's hard, but continue to look at those pictures. Look at pictures online. Just do a quick Google search, or Netflix has any number of documentaries interviewing survivors, and it is just the most heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching shit that you'll ever see, and stories that you'll hear. One particular story that sticks out to me is that a kid about 1,500 meters away from the I forget what it's called, but like the drop zone, like the epicenter. He was just incinerated on his tricycle. The kid lost his life on his tricycle, just doing what he loved, riding his tricycle out in front of his parents' house. The dad survived and buried the kid with his tricycle, which is like, both sweet and just like the fucking saddest thing you've ever heard. And there's just any number of stories like this, of individual stories. These people, these civilian Japanese people did not deserve that. And again, part of why we're doing this book is trying to learn about the history, give more context, the real history, a people's history, not the whitewash version that we get, And again, it's like, hey, Japan just, they attacked Pearl Harbor out of nowhere. No, not out of nowhere. Like they won the Japan-Russo War, and Japan was like expanding their empire, at least trying to.
Just like fucking with them and fucking with them and fucking with them and fucking with them. And so they said, okay.
Right. So they, there was, whatever, like a meeting for a treaty, and Japan had occupied all this Russian land, and, Western countries like the U.S. said, no, you guys, you're not white. So you can't have any of this Russian land. So you need to, retreat back to your island, and that's it. Also, the United States had a blockade on Japan. So they weren't getting all of the resources and things that they needed for, again, just for civilians to survive. I mean, also, resources for war and things like that. So it was a blockade. So this didn't just happen out of nowhere. It wasn't, damn it, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't, fuck, my brain's not working. But it basically took for them to, I can't, I'm going to cut this part out on the fucking,
It wasn't a sneak attack. It wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a bombardment.
Unprovoked.
Okay.
It wasn't unprovoked. They were fucking provoked. So that's why we had the attack on Pearl Harbor in December of 1941. So just these context, like these things going back even before World War II broke out. When you think about how they're like, no, Japan, you're not white. You have different skin and faces from us. So you can't have the land that you just rightfully won through war. Otherwise, we're going to war with you or throw up a blockade, and we put up the blockade anyway.
Can you imagine Asians back in the 1940s, 1930s? You got colored water fountains. You have white water fountains, and they don't have shit. And they're over here trying, well, it was many, many years prior, but they're over here putting together the railroad system, the TransUnion railroad system. And they weren't even considered class humans enough to have their own water fountain. Granted, they didn't have to go through the same type of conditions that the African American folk went through when it comes to slavery. However, they didn't exactly live privileged lives either. And so they see the colored water fountains and they see the white water fountains, and they're like, God damn it, can I just get a fucking drink?
Right.
I've been calling the Union Pacific all goddamn day, and all I want is something, and I can't go anywhere.
Right. And I mean, this can sort of turn into a kind of, fun fact, history lesson here while we kind of wrap things up. So, I
got 4 facts and we're wrapping things up.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, Japanese people came here from or Japan. came to fuck you, I caught myself. So the Japanese come from Afghanistan and landed in Washington. So they landed mostly in the Pacific Northwest, but also California, and they were treated like Black Americans. They were treated as an oppressed people, and this could not be clearer. While during World War II, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, set up internment camps for Japanese people. We had there were concentration camps going on that we were fighting against it in Nazi Germany. Meanwhile, America created their own concentration camps, internment camps for Japanese people because, oh my gosh, I mean, yeah, they've been American for generations, but they're Japanese, so there's a chance that they might infiltrate or just trade loyalty because they happen to be Japanese Americans, and they put them in friggin' concentration camps. So
while they essentially built almost every rail line that runs a tangent from the Pacific Northwest to as far as the Appalachian Mountains. So, yeah.
You're just on a train kick today. You're like Sheldon Cooper.
Well, I do enjoy trains.
You sound like a fucking 5-year-old.
I'm not quite partial.
I like totals. I like trains.
I'm not partial to the fact where you throw Japanese people into fucking bunkers and don't feed them anything, but I dig trains. If you'd ever shut the fuck up, I got 4 other things I'd like to bring up, but no, keep talking.
So another, just to go back to discussing the blockade on Japan, just something else that we should mention, because there's a lot of recently there has been some things have been heating up with Cuba as of late. and we could easily do an entire podcast on Cuba and relations with America. So I want to say since 1961, when Fidel Castro actually took power in Cuba with the basically the revolution with like a People's Party, and ever since then, the U.S. has had a embargo on Cuba, which is a nice word for blockade. And Cuba has developed their own vaccine. They distribute aid to African countries. They're only allowed to trade with people who don't trade with the U.S. Everybody trades with the U.S. We are consumers. We are
we're importer exporters.
We are just like, we are the munchers of Ghostbuster. Like, we just everything down the old gullet. Like, so everybody trades with us, and there's a couple of third world countries that are able to trade with Cuba. That's why when you see pictures from Cuba, they still have the cars from 1950s, and they're all just kind of customized and souped up. But it's like, well, it's because of the blockade. It's because no new cars have been coming into Cuba, so the Cuban people have had to get creative and keep those cars going for all these years. Just another thing to think about. If the U.S. was so worried about Cuba, or not so worried, maybe they should lift the embargo and see how a true independent socialist country does in the world, in a world of capitalism as well.
What the fuck you know about it, Bernie? I mean, if you were to ever bring that up in discussion to somebody legitimately in politics, that would be the reply that you get, even though it makes total sense. I'm just being antagonistic. I'm being the protagonist, or the antagonist, because I've had a couple, and Friday night. But
you're the devil's antagonist.
True story. Anyway, do you have any closing thoughts on your side? Because you told me to do some research, and God damn it, I didn't do it for nothing.
Fire away.
All right, so there's 3 things I want to bitch about. President Barack Obama is one of my favorite human beings on the face of the earth. But if I ever see him in an alley, I want to punch him in the dick, and here's why. 9/11 anniversary this year is going to be the 20th anniversary, and I can't find the cat's name because my phone is horrible and I don't get reception in my apartment. However, many of you may recall an incident in where they used torture methods to somebody who was a part of the 9/11 attacks on the Twin Towers. And they thought that he had information that could help solve who done it. Well, the answer on who done it was the United States. But so they kept torturing this man and torturing day after day, night after night, barely feeding, barely watering, until he finally came out after one day and given an opportunity to say, yeah, I did it. Fuck this shit. I did everything you said. I'm done. And they never brought charges upon this man because their case wasn't strong enough to bring in front of the Supreme Court. And what did Barack do? He let this man stay in prison for 5 more years. I get it. He's Muslim. He's not one of us. He looks different.
Yep.
You should be goddamn ashamed of yourself. It's such an atrocity that all these people lost their lives, and to go even further into it, that the first responders aren't getting any kind of support whatsoever, kind of like the folks going through the moratorium. And there's people dying at an early age because of the smoke inhalation or the cement inhalation, just to save some lives, to find some bodies, to find some carcasses. So, Barack, I love you, but you fucked up royally on that one, my man. And
we need to have a talk about why you love Barack so much. Again, fucking, if you hate Republicans so much, and if
what
you
the
need
fuck
me,
other options, Rob? What are the other options? I ain't seen you on a ballot. What the fuck am I supposed to do?
If you need more reason,
What would you rather have?
you don't have to like
Hobie?
but you don't have to like him just because you dislike somebody else. Like, the lesser of two evils is still evil.
No, I understand that completely. I am not an educated man by the standards of this world. However, through experience, I believe that I get things to a degree in which I can incorporate myself into discussions in a feasible manner. I love Barack Obama because his speeches gave us hope. And I know those are just words, but aren't his words a whole lot different than 45? And I get it. You're going to make comparisons and contrasts into why. I'm not up for it. I still got two other things to bitch about because you've been talking for the last 45 minutes. Well, I got the floor. So
I will tell you that it's probably worse because he's lying to your fucking face, and you're just why you're just letting him grin in your face. I don't understand. You know, he didn't do anything. Yes, his words were better. Who cares about civility when he's just taking a fucking dump all over everybody?
When I sent you the joke of Caitlyn Jenner running for governor of California, and you said, quote, only a lib like you would enjoy something like that.
Yeah.
Quote, it didn't have the same twang. It didn't hit the same way that our jokes usually do. It felt like a low punch, like I had just woke up and forgot to put on my jock strap. And I was like, this motherfucker is hit below the belt. It's 8:30. What the fuck?
No, like, that was me. And this is something I've been struggling with too, so I could be honest with you.
Being a dickhead, yeah.
So, yeah, only a liberal like you would think that's funny or something like that. And again, like, it's just this sort of trying to push you left. Like, that shit is just, it's not, maybe it's just me. Like, I'm just over the fucking, we know Republicans fucking suck. And yes, it's fun to dunk on them, but like, that doesn't do anything for anybody. It's not even
about the Republican, Rob. That chick's got a dick. And we're making fun of her. It's about comedy. And I understand that some of this shit is not allowed nowadays. Okay? We get canceled for saying things. Anything we say, we have to deal with the repercussions of our words. You could say anything you want, but people get to judge, react, and do whatever they wish as they see fit to your words. But it was just more of a, look at this silly motherfucker in this commercial running for governor. It wasn't anything that has to do with politics. I'm not as far. So you're not even left. You're off the spectrum. You're autistic when it comes to politics.
I'm not even. That doesn't even make sense. But no, I'm not even like. First of all, let me be clear. I didn't think the joke was funny. Wasn't making. I don't think you were making fun of Caitlyn and her being transgender, correct?
No.
Okay, because that's what it sounds.
The fact that she
that's
actually,
what it sounded like. So I want you to give you a chance to clear that up.
No, I was making fun of the fact that she actually thought she had a chance to win governorship in the state of California, which was my laughing matter.
That I guess I can see that. I don't think that's funny. I I just think like that whole family dynamic catching up with the fuck faces, like I can't stand it. So, yes, it was me taking a dig at you, but like, just being playful because you're
it
fucking.
didn't feel playful is all I'm saying. That's
All right.
Usually they feel playful, but here nor there, doesn't matter. The most important thing that I wanted to talk about all night was the sexual scandal going on in the U.S. Olympics. And you would automatically say, oh, he must be talking about gymnastics. No, guess what? There's other fuckfaces out there that don't know how to keep their hands to themselves as males and have never been taught by the right people. I have fucking no parents, and I know when no means no. What the fuck is your excuse?
Right. So you were saying something about fencing?
So there was 3 men, 4 in total, that wore. Let me restart. There's 4 members of a fencing team in the Olympics. 3 of the members wore pink face masks.
Okay.
See the guy in the black face mask?
Yes.
His name is Alan Hadsick. He's 29.
Okay.
And he was accused of sexual misconduct by 3 women, including groping, while he was a student at Columbia University between 2013 and 2015. These badass motherfuckers decided to wear pink face masks in support of the victims and told their teammate to eat a bag on the stand while they're like, no, we're not riding with you on this one, dog. There's no. And it's such a beautiful thing that they left this man hanging on his own because, well, he hung himself by being a dumbass. And I just felt so appreciative of the strength, the courage that it takes for the women to come forth, because lots of men say, what about the guys that get fucked over by the women that are lying? Well, statistics from the FBI database say that less than 7%, it's like 6.7 something, whatever, are liars when it comes to sexual misconduct or sexual assault charges. Less than 7% of these women are lying. But yet every man you hear about always brings up, what about the ones that lie? What about the ones that lie? Well, what about the ones that are telling the truth and getting away with the shit just like this guy did? And he's on the world's largest sporting stage doing his thing. And his teammates outed him. Do you know how forbidden that is? You and I have played every sport you could possibly fucking think of in high school and even higher levels for you. And the courage it takes to put somebody on that island when they're your teammate is outstanding. And I just wanted to tip the cap, pour out some Henny, whatever, clap, golf clap, whatever the fuck. I appreciate you gentlemen for having the women's back in this particular instance, because Lord knows he shouldn't have anybody supporting him in his endeavors.
So women, a lot of women don't come out and say what happened because they've seen these horror stories of men just getting away with whatever sexual assault or rape over and over, especially white cis males. So it's hard for them to come forward. So yeah, definitely commend women that come out for that. And do you know what country this was?
This was the United States.
Oh, it was the U.S. Okay.
Yeah, Columbia University. Alex something
Oh, right.
was the gentleman who was accused of the misconduct. And
Okay. Yeah, you did say Columbia University.
But
I thought maybe it could have been Columbia, you know.
It's been weighing on my chest heavily. There's been some things that Joe Rogan has said about the vaccination that I wanted to talk about, but fuck him. It's not important.
Yeah, so
he's going to say what he says, and then there's going to be stupid fucks that listen to him because they don't know how to discern information on their own. They think that anything you hear on a podcast is true, or anything you hear on NPR is true. I give NPR a more benefit of the doubt because they seem to be more liberal with their fact checking, and they do things like let people know who's involved in the story, especially if it's sponsors and things like that. So I feel comfortable putting my money behind NPR. Are they perfect? Fuck no.
But yeah, they definitely
you get what I'm saying. But
yeah, no, I hear you. I don't even. I don't know if I agree though. Again, like NPR, they have their masters too. They have their corporate overlords, so they're only going to cherry pick, you know, what they want to say too to bring in the big bucks. Where Rogan already got paid
$110 million by SiriusXM to move to Austin and
at Spotify, and
exactly.
And Joe is just an idiot who is going to say whatever he wants to say when he wants to say it. So again, I don't even know where I land because NPR, like I just, again, I see things through this new lens. I've seen things that they've said and not said. So I don't really trust them as a good source either. Again, it's usually my sources come from yes, they do come from the internet, but they're from independent journalists like Bellingcat or people who work for them like Robert Evans. So yeah, I get my stuff from different sources, and usually it's from people who are just trying to survive and don't have again the corporate overlords to please,
Right.
or have a sort of all these hoops to jump through to get something published, right?
And before you bring it home for us, because my floor is all yours, I just want to remind you this. No matter how far left you are, and no matter how educated you are when it comes to the different areas in which you listen to your podcast, and Lord knows that you have a greater grasp on humanity and politics and the goings on of this world than I do. But just remember that everybody's got their masters until they break their chains. Everybody. So it's something we hope that we can do collectively one day, and that we only answer to ourselves or for the greater good or for those of us who may be spiritual or religious, the highest of highs. But everybody's got their chains, man. And
did you have another fact before you wanted to?
That was it, man. I just wanted to get the one with the fencing. Joe Rogan can eat a dick. I just wanted to get the fencing one off my chest because that really, it really hit in the right spot, because on the grandest of all stages, you told a teammate that he could fuck off, and we're taking the side of the people in which we believe. And that meant the world to me as being a sexual abuse survivor myself. That's it. That's all I got. Yeah. Take us home, kid.
That's great. what do you think about if they? Last thing, real quick, before just a quick question. What do you think about? Do you think they took it far enough? So I don't think you think that it was just virtual
Virtue.
virtue signaling. Thank you. It wasn't just virtue signaling. But do you think they could have taken it a step further by straight up protesting and not even playing in the games, or protesting until he was left off the roster and an alternate was jumped in, supplanting him, and then went on to play the games?
Of course, they did the latter until they were blue in the face and they refused to make the change. Like, outside of holding a gun to the coach's head, they did that. They were like, we don't want this motherfucker here. Of course, they could have sat out of the Olympic Games and said, we're not participating with them. We are behind the survivors, the abused, in which this man has dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
But then 3 innocent individuals are giving up something that they've worked their whole lives for people that have been abused, which is a great concept, but for one man who's made horrible mistakes. So would you ask someone to give up everything you've ever worked for to stand true to sexual survivors, or the sexual abuse survivors? Or would you go on, try and do your thing in the Olympics and go about it in the way they did? I think they brought sufficient attention to not just the United States, but the world, in which I'm more than proud. And if I would have seen the other 3 gentlemen sit out, I would have been proud as well, but I would have been pissed off, because when you're an Olympian, you don't work at this shit a couple days a week. You don't put in 70 hours in a month. This is daily.
Yeah, this is everything you eat, everything you consume, everything, how you sleep, everything is your entire life.
And you don't get to say, 3 years, I'll be back. I know normally it's 4 years, but the Summer Olympics got pushed back. That's why I said 3. But anyway, so you don't get to say, we'll compete. Fuck that. I think they did it the exact way they should have. They had their words heard. That guy is standing on a pedestal of loneliness, and hopefully the next pedestal he's standing on is a doctrine of, or maybe standing in front of a judge to face the proper consequences in which he deserves. I doubt it. He's Caucasian American, and this was in 2013 through 15, so I believe that time has passed. So
right, another stupid, how the whatever it is, like the statute expired or whatever, statute of limitations, so fucking stupid. But yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing your experience. I'm sure the other all the listeners appreciate you sharing that, and definitely gives perspective, especially where you're coming from, and why that is something that hit you right in the feels.
It was it made me feel good, man, which rarely sexual abuse scandals do.
Right.
But this one made me feel good. And if you could feel good about something that awful,
right,
I think they did everything in the right way.
I hear you. All right. No, sounds good. This was a pretty good off the rails bonus episode. So
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Next week, we will have a script. We'll get back to the book, and let me just tell you what the chapter is right now as I filibuster and look for the book. It's
We're in chapter 6.
Chapter 6, The Intimately Oppressed. And we're finally going to talk about women, if you can believe it or not. So,
Fuck them all. I mean, I should be wearing a black mask too. Jesus. No, it'll be about time because I'm so sick and tired of talking about the awfulness, which is the male genre. For the last 5 chapters, we've talked about the forefathers and how awful they are. So it will be nice to introduce women into the conversation, women's suffrage, their struggle, their plight, the way they've overcome, etc., etc. And I look forward to getting back on the microphone with you sometime very soon. But
likewise.
Not too soon.
So at the risk of sounding eloquent, let's do a general strike. Good night, folks.
General strike.